Hi. So for this video, I'm going to talk to you about Aristophanes' play Acharnians, which I believe is one of his early plays. And we start to get a sense of some of the themes that are going to be important to Aristophanes throughout his career. So this is an anti-war play about a guy, Decapolis, who makes a peace treaty with Sparta during the Peloponnesian War, but he makes the peace treaty only for himself and his family. So he's an Athenian. Athens is fighting Sparta. Broadly speaking, Athens versus Sparta in the Peloponnesian War. Decapolis makes his own peace treaty and lets the rest of Athens sort of go on with the war. And basically, Acharnians is about how much better Decapolis has it than the other Athenian, particularly Lamachus, the general, who is a big supporter of the war. He's very much a sort of rah-rah, let's go fight the Spartans kind of guy. And yet, Decapolis makes these really good arguments in favor of peace. He makes these really good arguments that the war is pointless anyway because the reasons that it started were stupid in the first place, and so on and so on. And so he actually ends up convincing half of the chorus. And so you get the chorus sort of divided against itself. And then after Decapolis has made peace, traders from other cities, from Thebes and Megara, come in and actually trade goods with him. And like he gets this stuff that the other Athenians can't get because he's made peace and they haven't. So he ends up having these sort of imported luxury goods that other people want but can't get a hold of. And so that's one of the ways in which peace ends up being better. But toward the end of the play, we actually get sort of the most overt way in which peace is better, because Lamachus gets called up to a post in the mountains where he's going to be sitting in snow and eating shitty food and things like this. And Decapolis gets called to a feast at the priest of Dionysus' house. In this translation, it's the priest of Bacchus, but Bacchus is another name for Dionysus. So Decapolis goes to a feast at the god of wine's temple, basically, and he ends up with two flute girls. The implication strongly being that he's going to have sex with both of them that night. Lamachus, on the other hand, gets stabbed in the leg and beaten up pretty badly in battle, and he comes back and he's a bit despondent about being wounded, but he's also, like, his main concern is that Decapolis not see him and not make fun of him for being wounded. So that's sort of the main thing in the play, is the anti-war angle. But we've also got some other really interesting components that come to characterize Aristophanes' style. So one is the political satire. Particularly political satire aimed at democracy. And then the other thing that I'm going to talk about is what we would today call meta-theater or meta-drama. This sort of discussion of theatricality and the processes of playmaking. So early in the play, the Acharnians, who are this sort of group of aging veterans who are pro-war, are upset with Decapolis because he's made this piece and they view him as a traitor. So he has to convince the chorus of Acharnians that he was in the right. And so when he's sort of prepping, when he's thinking about his rhetoric that he's going to use to persuade this crowd, he says, "And yet I fear, for well I know the moods of our good country people, how they love to hear the city and themselves bepraised by some intriguing humbug, right or wrong, nor ever dream they are being bought and sold." So rhetoric was at the core of Athenian democracy. Like, the whole system ran on speakers persuading others to support their position, whether that was what course of action should we take, whether that was in a trial to determine whether someone was guilty or innocent. It's all about persuasion. And Aristophanes is very skeptical, like Plato or possibly Socrates, as we get in Plato's Republic. Aristophanes is very skeptical about this process of persuasion, and so here we get this concern about basically demagoguery, people who are going to say flattering things about the city and sort of thump their chests and wave the flag and things like this, and take people in, give bad advice, but on the pretext of, I'm a patriot, I want what's best for the country, I will do what's good for the people, etc., etc. So we've got that fear here, and we see that sort of anti-democratic concern in other plays, like The Birds, Lysistrata to a certain extent. But then we've also got this concern tied to issues of performance. And rhetoric is performance, especially in Athenian democracy, where rhetoric was always spoken. It was always oration as opposed to sort of written texts. And so Decapolis actually brings out Euripides, the dramatist, and basically just borrows a whole bunch of stuff from him, from Euripides, to put on a show to persuade the Athenians. So he says, this is Decapolis says, "But by your knees, Euripides, I pray, lend me some rags from that old play of yours. For to the chorus I today must speak a lengthy speech, and if I fail, 'tis death." So we've got that element of rhetoric as performance and drama as performance, whether that's tragedy from Euripides or comedy from Aristophanes. But we've also got this meta-theatrical reference for "to the chorus I today must speak." I mean, Decapolis, the character Decapolis is not speaking to a chorus. He's speaking to the Acharnians, but the actor playing Decapolis is speaking to a chorus. And we've got this we've got this elaborated somewhat shortly after that, when Decapolis says, "For I've today to act a beggar's part, to be myself yet not to seem myself. The audience there will know who I am, will know me who I am, whilst all the chorus stand like idiots by, the while I fill up them with cunning words." So again, we've got that sort of critique of rhetoric in a democracy, in which it's easy to, or critics of democracy in ancient Athens claim that it's easy to bamboozle one's fellow citizens with flowery words. But we've also got this distinction here. The audience there will know me who I am. So that's the audience of Athenian citizens actually watching the comedy, whilst all the chorus stand like idiots by. So he's making a distinction here between the people watching the play, the people in the stands, and the chorus, the people who are representing the citizens of Athens on stage. So we've got that interesting component there. And then the last bit of this that I want to point to, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's quite a long choral portion, but we've got this lengthy choral speech that's basically about how awesome Dicapolis the poet is, or Dicapolis the comedian, the comic poet. And Dicapolis kind of stands in for Aristophanes in a way, because there's earlier on, and then actually slightly later as well, there's some discussion of Cleon taking legal action against Dicapolis because of a play, and that actually I think is a reference to something that happened to Aristophanes himself. But we've got this long speech here. Let me see if I can find just a small portion of it that's good. Okay. But be you on guard, nor surrender the bard, for his art shall be righteous and true. Rare blessings and great he will work for the state, rare happiness shower upon you. Not fawning, not bribing, or striving to cheat with an empty, unprincipled jest. Not seeking your favor to curry or nurse, but teaching the things that are best. So we've got this long choral speech where they praise comic poets specifically. Primarily Aristophanes in his avatar as Dicapolis, and it's basically this sort of argument in verse that the things that comic poets say, the satire that they make of the polis itself, of the city-state, is to the benefit of the city-state. That it makes the citizens, it makes the community, it makes the city-state itself stronger. And so the comic poet should be defended. So it's a delightful play. And again, we get in this sort of early work some of the characteristics that become important in Aristophanes' overall dramaturgical style.